As I reflect on our trip to Romania, it was without a doubt a life-changing time for me.
A mission trip always reminds me of the verse in Matthew 9:17 that says you cannot put new wine into old wineskins. The trip will inevitably change you, and it's supposed to.
Faith is the light that shines through the tunnel. It is the compass that points north when we are off course.
You never return as the same person who left, and that's the goal. You come back with new wine, a little braver, a little bolder, and always more compassionate.
One of the best things about the trip overall was just being able to go with our son, Sam, and watching God work in his life and softening his heart to these people.
In Romania, those people are living post-communism. There is an oppression that they have survived and are rallying back from. So you'll find the rich mingled right with the poor.
Many impactful moments and a lot of tears shed throughout that week. Tears for the Ukrainian people and those that are refugees. There were lots of tears shed for Florine and his team as they pour their hearts and souls into this ministry, knowing their days are so full and that being overwhelmed is never too far off.
As I sat in a cafeteria in Cluj, Romania, watching women with babies, small children, older men and women, disabled folks, and some spirited teenagers form a line to receive lunch, I thought to myself, these are just people. Some of them having familiar faces, looking like people I know back home.
One thing I'll always remember about this first trip to Romania is meeting one woman in particular. And we visited a gypsy community. They are a minority people group called Roma.
Traveling to a new people group, you find the beauty in seeing that God is everywhere. He is alive and well and active in their culture just as much as in your own.
Elizabeth was the woman that we met that day. We connected right away, as my youngest daughter's name is Elizabeth too.
It was hard for me to not insert my own children's faces and think, how would I feel? How would I react to our whole lives being stopped on a dime in the face of war?
You always walk away realizing the world is so small. We have more in common, much more that unites us than could ever separate us.
So we hit it off, and Elizabeth is a widow, and she has two daughters, one college age and the other 11 years old, who had a cute cat named Garfield. And she was the recipient of one of the homes that was built for her by the local ministry. Because when her husband passed, his family essentially kicked Elizabeth and her girls out. She was so happy and so grateful for her home.
What would I do if I had to send my 20-year-old off to the front lines to fight, leave my husband behind to protect our town, then run with my smaller children to another country with no certainty that I would see either one of them again? How would I react? Would I be angry, sad, panicked? I think yes.
You'll encounter Romanian citizens living nearby to the Roma people, a devastatingly poor community that was never really welcome to integrate.
There was no running water at all, like no indoor plumbing. It had a small fireplace for heat with a stack of wood next to it.
They are the marginalized people, and they're not thriving.
But after visiting with her for a while, we asked her how we could pray for her. And in my mind, I immediately came up with a solid list, like with running water at the top, central heat, indoor bathroom, refrigerator. Like my mind's list just kept growing.
The whole time I was there, the verse that kept coming to me was Psalms 34:17. The Lord hears his people when they call to him for help. He rescues them from their troubles. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed.
We visited their one-room structures that might hold upwards of 12 people. They might have solid windows or they might not. They sometimes have a wall missing, just open to the winter air.
Yet it was her answer that just wrecked me. Without hesitation, like her first thought was for others, not for herself, not for her situation, but the others in the village would be blessed as she was. And I just lost it. Like I could not keep the tears from falling because she had so little. She was so grateful. That was quite a lesson that God showed me in that very moment.
I met a woman there by the name of Vicky, Vicky is a YWAM leader at another campus in Romania, and she was such a special soul. She had come to this campus in Cluj to help with the Ukraine refugees. She was there to learn from Buzz and Tara.
And yet the people are so grateful for your visit, for your simple, heartfelt prayers, that you would come all the way from America to be with them, just to chat and to listen.
And she was such a beautiful soul. Her charisma and her light and her love for Christ really shined through.
There are 20 families that are looked after in this village through Florine and his team. And we were able to take them just a little bag of snacks. It wasn't much, but it is a powerful thing for them to know someone sees them and is praying for them.
I really connected with her. And the way she serves people, especially refugees that are there, was awe-inspiring. And I really enjoyed meeting her. I feel like I hope that is me. I hope that I serve like that. I hope that's how people feel around me.
They get to hear that there is hope they can have in Jesus, in his kindness, his goodness, and his grace.
If anyone there had a right to wallow or not be thriving, it would be our Ukrainian refugee friends.
And even though I walked away from that visit feeling a heavy burden for these families, I am also very grateful that there is an element-type team in Romania caring for orphans and widows.
The losses they've sustained are innumerable. Perhaps the most devastated by loss was my friend Helen.
So what made my heart ache was, so there has been 4 babies, Ukraine babies that have been born at that campus, and they don't have papers of any kind, no birth certificate of any kind. Romania doesn't give dual citizenship.
She and her husband Sergei were from Kherson, one of the most bombed out and destroyed provinces.
And Ukraine is not functioning in that way at this moment. They are on refugee status, and so those mothers are concerned about their children.
In fact, Helen's dad has had rockets land on his farm, their literal front yard, and he doesn't want to leave. Who would want to leave their homeland? Helen and Sergei made it to safety, yet still they take the risk and bear the cost of running supplies back and forth into Ukraine from Romania.
They really spoke to me like it was really powerful. Sorry, hold on.
They are pastors of a church comprised of refugees that now sojourns with them in a land that is not their home. They never know what tomorrow will hold. They're living with radical faith, shepherding a people on the run.
They were so welcoming to all of us that came to stand with them for just a moment, to help them carry their burdens, if only for a moment.
The Russians heard about this couple and dragged Helen's dad in for questioning. I think it was maybe just from fear or worry or simply self-preservation. But when asked about his daughter and her husband, he said, "If you find them, shoot them. I don't care. They're just agents of America and they mean nothing to me." Can you imagine your parents saying that about you? I had a difficult dad, but he never sold me out. He never rejected me or my faith on this level.
They worshiped like full out in the midst of all of their loss and in the midst of all this destruction, but they had such a deep praise and thankfulness for what God is doing. It was powerful.
She said, "I wake up every morning and don't know if my parents will live or die that day. And yet she guides her flock. She leads worship and praise and tends to their hearts as her own is breaking."
All we could do was try to speak truth and life, maybe hold a baby so a mama could eat her soup.
I don't know if I could bear it, but Helen does. And she prays for her dad every day for his safety and his salvation. She models a forgiving grace that bears real weight. I think she showed me what Jesus meant, to keep on forgiving, 70 times 7. I mean, she has every right to quit, to stay safe, to cling on to what she has. But instead, she gives everything away, and forgiveness besides.
And Helena led the women's worship during our women's event. And she sang pretty old school songs like Awesome God. And I I just could not, I can't explain how impactful that was to watch them worship in the midst of such turmoil.
So compelling and so convicting is that here's this woman who has lost her home, has lost her country, her church, her job, and she shows up this night to lead and to care for and to shepherd. And in the midst of the weightiest of suffering, waking up every day, not knowing if her parents are alive or stepped into eternity, she's speaking out of the depths of her pain and giving a gift. And I think I just felt so challenged by that so often we can get so self-focused and just wallow in our situation and our pain, and it becomes bigger and bigger. And she just refused to do that. She refused to let it take control of her life.
I just wonder, like, could I do that? Could I do that on the day-to-day, like week in and week out? What if that happened to me and to my family? And what if we were all scattered? And what if, I don't know, how would I react the same?
But what I saw was a group of people that they had all that in common and their faith. They were from all over Ukraine, but they were all brothers and sisters in Christ.
Her words were treasures, and I will remember them all my days.
Sharing their faith, stories, worries, heartaches. They were helping each other by carrying each other's burdens.
I think one of the resounding things that we kept hearing over and over was that there were people living their ordinary lives in Ukraine before this crisis that were in a Christless reality. And it took this tragedy, it took this suffering for Jesus to grip their hearts and to capture them for his kingdom.
All we can do sometimes when people are suffering is show up. And Element Church, you showed up by sending a few people and your resources that helped fill a truck that then went into Ukraine to help refresh, clothe, and feed men and women that are still in Ukraine holding the line. Thank you guys so much.
Even in the darkness, like God's light shines so bright.
Even in the darkness, I saw that the Lord's calling on a person's life will prevail.
Even in the darkness, you can find your community. You can find your people.
Even in the darkness, God is there.
I'm so grateful to know that there are kindred souls all around the world taking up their crosses daily, and we can do the same.
You can keep your faith, and you can persevere.
That there's nothing that can come against it. No darkness, no tragedy, no war, no enemy.
Because the Lord has already won, and he's fighting for you.
Your calling and your purpose in Jesus will conquer.
There's never so much darkness or bleakness that his light doesn't shine.
But I wonder, maybe the Lord sent me all the way there just to talk and to pray and to cry with Helen. She was absolutely worth it.
When everything is taken away and all we have left is our family, our health, and our faith, we see true community, true dependence on Christ to see us through. For when we are weak, the Lord is strong.